Part 47. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 461. Only when the opponent goes all out and leaves no room for anything is the time for him to show his trump card. At that time, once Lin Yi relied on his true life to ignore the opponent's attack, the opponent would not even have time to react. Victory or defeat can only be determined in an instant. There is no regular battle with boundless life. Lin Yi asked himself that he would never be able to defeat the opponent. However, at this time, Su Wuzi was unexpectedly cautious, and did not have the crushing mentality that a ghost-level master should have. Thinking of this, Lin Yi knew in his heart that he had to change some plans. Fighting is a very dangerous thing, and the consequences may be to lose everything. Lin Yi's opponent, Su Wuzi, was so powerful that he also needed to be cautious. At this time, Su Wuzi was gradually testing Lin Yi, and the two of them were going back and forth in this space. The light of the sword kept flashing, and the power of the crutch of destruction also kept blooming. The two of them are getting familiar with each other's fighting methods and strength. Every time they fight, they don't have much strength. They are all maintaining the consumption and recovery of energy in their bodies. This is a competition of spirit and will. A few minutes passed in the blink of an eye, and the two of them basically figured out each other's methods. A thought flashed through Su Wuzi's mind: the crutch in this man's hand is destructive beyond common sense. Every time it collides, the energy sword light in my hand will be damaged. This destructive force is a force that fundamentally destabilizes the structure of energy and matter. The thought I injected into the sword light will be shattered as soon as it touches the power. Other than that, this person's other methods are only at the first level of the ghost immortal way. There's nothing special about strength, there's nothing special about speed. The only teleportation should be caused by some kind of strange object. There's nothing special about his skills. He originated from the Vajrasen way of the West. He's a completely mediocre person. The only special thing about him is that he's immune to any attacks. Only when it comes into contact with my sword light will it feel real. Other times it seems to be in a state of illusion. Untouchable by any force. But it would be strange if he could really ignore my attacks completely. Then there's no need for him to avoid me. Just ignore all my attacks and exchange injuries for injuries. Then the only outcome for me is to run away or die. But why would he do this? There must be a reason. In just a few minutes, Nyuxizi had already touched the key point of this war. Is there a limit? There must be a flaw in his ability. If my reasoning is correct, there is an upper limit to the number of attacks or power he can receive. Once it exceeds its limit, his abilities will cease. Then I know what to do. Thinking of this, Su Wuzi's eyes showed a glimmer of confidence. A 5-element magic needle flew out from the cuff of his left hand. The magic needle carried huge power and penetrated Lin Yi from the front in an instant. Lin Yi's face was expressionless, as if he wasn't hurt at all. But Su Wuzi continuously controlled the 5 elements god to attack Lin Yi. One after another, the light brought by the 5 elements divine needle penetrated Lin Yi. In just 1 minute, Lin Yi was pierced 10 times. His spiritual wave also disappeared by 10% in this short period of time. And his face began to show a hint of anxiety and paleness. It seemed that he had consumed a lot of strength and seemed to be feeling anxious in the face of the coming danger. Su Wuzi keenly captured the expression on Lin Yi's face, and he knew what was going on. Sure enough, his ability is flawed. My guess is correct, but it still needs to be tested. At this point he knew where his path to victory was. The 5 elements divine needle continued to pass through Lin Yi's body at an even faster speed. After another minute, Lin Yi's spiritual wave disappeared by 10% again. In addition, the battles along the way are digested one after another. The remaining spiritual waves in his body are less than 60%. His face became more solemn, and his whole person exuded an aura before a volcanic eruption. The attack speed is getting faster and faster, and the destruction cane keeps slashing towards Wu Zi. Faster and faster, like a violent storm. But every blow he made was blocked by the Void Child. After all, Su Wuzi is the pinnacle master of the Ghost Immortal Way. The sword light constructed with the 5 elements divine fan, combined with his martial arts cultivation, is also unparalleled in killing. It is absolutely impossible for Lin Yi to defeat the opponent with close combat. At this moment, a black light suddenly flew out from Lin Yi's arms. The ground-suppressing seal was thrown at Su Wuzi, which was a magic weapon that had been prepared for a long time. Facing the sudden attack from the magic weapon, Su Wuzi was caught off guard and was hit on the spot. But there was always a layer of colorful light outside his body, and his robes always bloomed with the power of protection. The moment Lin Yi Zhenshan seal appeared, he injected a large amount of essence into his magic weapon. The 5 elements mask reappears, blocking all power. Bang bang bang. The violent collision exploded in an instant. A shock wave swept between the two people in all directions. At the same time, the light of the 5 elements divine needle once again penetrated Lin Yi's head. Obviously, this was Su Wuzi launching another attack. It's a pity that at this time, he still maintains that ability. It turned out that when Su Wuzi saw Lin Yi using the magic weapon, he guessed whether Lin Yi would weaken his defense against him because of the use of the magic weapon. But the result disappointed him. Lin Yi still maintained his special ability, and the illusion was not affected by the force. In fact, he didn't know that Lin Yi knew every attack of his. As long as he wanted, he could dodge it, because he relied on his innate ability and the perception of danger. Every time the 5 elements divine needle appeared, he could sense the danger and even make a prediction. But Lin Yi didn't dodge. All this was a trap, he said. Step by step, he lured Su Wuzi into it. This was a battle of psychology and strategy. But even so, he could still see that at least 30% of Su Wuzi's energy was preserved in his body and did not move. Only 70% of the energy was slowly consumed. This guy is too cautious, this thought flashed through Lin Yi's mind. At this time, the earth seal didn't have much effect, it just made Su Wuzi retreat a few steps after being blown away. At this time, Lin Yi rushed through the center of the explosion, and the destruction cane chopped him down on the head. At this time, Lin Yi was very anxious, as if he was eager to win. From his expression, to his breath, to his attack speed, he became more and more violent. This attack from top to bottom was full of all his strength. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 462. From any direction, this seemed to be a desperate struggle, a counterattack to avoid dragging the battle into a dangerous period. A bright smile appeared on the corner of Su Wuzi's mouth, and he knew that the time had come. As long as this blow is repelled, the opponent will no longer have any hope. The next moment, the sword light in his right hand disappeared, and he fanned towards Lin Yi. The 5 elements extinction divine light reappears. The terrifying multicolored torrent directly submerged Lin Yi, but Lin Yi still seemed to be unscathed. However, the destruction cane was hit by the great 5 elements extermination god array, and flew up into the air with Lin Yi. At this time, Lin Yi flew into the air and escaped from the area shrouded in the 5 elements extinction divine light. Whether intentionally or unintentionally, his clothes were slightly damaged. The moment he escaped from the area enveloped by the 5 elements extinction divine light, Su Wuzi saw the scene keenly, but he still did not launch an attack rashly. Instead, he directly controlled the 5 elements divine needle to stab Lin Yi. At this time, Lin Yi had not yet landed, and was about 1 meter away from the ground. The 5 elements divine needle pierced him in the air, but this time the 5 elements divine needle still did not hurt him. However, Lin Yi's clothes were damaged. Puff puff puff. Continuous sonic booms appeared in the air, and several holes appeared in Lin Yi's clothes. Su Wuzi narrowed his eyes when he saw this and showed a sinister smile. Sure enough, his abilities are beginning to weaken. Soon, his strength will no longer be able to support him. At this time, Lin Yi naturally reacted accordingly. He took a deep look at Wuzi, then turned around and rushed towards the exit of the maze. At this time, vodka and brandy had already received Lin Yi's order. After Su Wuzi broke out his ultimate move for the first time, they had been lying on the ground pretending to be dead. Lin Yi was very fast, covering several meters in a flash. The smile on Su Wuzi's face froze. He realized what Lin Yi wanted to do. Want to run? How can it be so easy for me to stay? Thinking of this, the Five Elements Divine Needle had already launched a series of attacks at Lin Yi. At the same time, he also activated the Five Elements Escape technique. At this time, Lin Yi was no longer a threat to him. The sense of crisis that might have been brought about by activating the Five Elements Escape technique had disappeared from his senses. The next moment, he arrived at the entrance of the maze, blocking Lin Yi's direction. At this time, Lin Yi was in a state of madness, and the crutch of destruction in his hand lit up with a dark light. He waved it fiercely, completely ignoring the Five Elements Divine Needle that was attacking him. Get out of my way. Facing Lin Yi's ferocious attack, Su Wuzi smiled and raised the Five Elements fan in his hand. Infinite power was injected into it, and a storm of the Five Elements Extinction Divine Needle swept towards Lin Yi. You have no chance, just die. I don't know whether it was intentional or unintentional, but a trace of blood appeared on Lin Yi's face. That was the damage the Five Elements Divine Needle had just brought to him, and this was also the reason why Su Wuzi took action brazenly. He knew that Lin Yi had problems with his special ability and was on the verge of collapse. His attack was truly full force, reaching the limit of the power that the Five Elements fan could bear. A piece of the Five Elements Exterminating Divine Needle was seen completely covering Lin Yi, without revealing any gaps. The moment this invisible magic needle appeared, a dense sonic boom sounded in an instant. Each one pierced the speed of sound and tore the air. Lin Yi's figure was completely submerged, and Su Wuzi was also blocked by the light, unable to see the real situation inside. But his mind could sense the ferocity on Lin Yi's face, which was an angry expression in the face of crisis. Lin Yi did not flinch at all because of his slap. There was a trace of determination on his face, as if he wanted to fight for his life. With countless Five Elements of Extinction Divine Needles passing through his body, he still waved the destruction cane and swung it down towards the head of Wuzi. At this time, Su Wuzi's soul thought could see traces of blood appearing on Lin Yi's back. When countless Five-Element Extermination needles pass through Lin Yi's body, they will bring out a trace of blood. It is obvious that the opponent's special ability is truly on the verge of collapse. After waving, the Five Elements Divine Fan suddenly lifted up. A brilliant multicolored sword light appeared again, striking at the crutch of destruction that fell above his head. Su Wuzi's face was filled with a smile, and he knew that he was sure to win. The opponent's ability would not last long. As long as he blocked the opponent's blow, Lin Yi would definitely die. With full confidence, the sword light formed by the cane of destruction and the Five Elements fan came into contact again. This time, Lin Yi used all his strength, and his face was filled with the expression and temperament of success or failure. Su Wuzi also used all his strength. He would never allow Lin Yi to break through. The collision between full force and full force was so fast that there was no time to react. But at the moment when the crutch of destruction and the sword light of the Five Elements Divine Fan came into contact, something unexpected happened to Su Wuzi. His sword light didn't touch anything at all. Just like that, he simply passed through the crutch of destruction and swept Lin Yi's head at the same time. If he were an ordinary person, he would have been cut in half by this sword. But Lin Yi was unscathed. At the critical moment, Su Wuzi could no longer control his body and dodge. His soul and mind already knew what was going on in an instant. I was set up. But there was no time for him to think about it. The moment this thought flashed through his mind, the destruction cane had split him in half from top to bottom. The terrifying destructive force also swept through his body in an instant. A colorful light suddenly burst out from his body, and an illusory colorful peacock appeared in the basement. It was 2 meters long, and the peacock screen behind it had been unfolded, dividing it into 5 colors. A thought full of resentment burst out from the peacock. "Damn it, how dare you, die for me!" In an instant, the colorful peacock exploded directly, turning into a torrent of 5 colors, flooding towards Lin Yi. The violent soul-level impact swept over, and Lin Yi's head was buzzing. A powerful torrent of impact hit his spiritual world. In just a moment, his face turned pale, and at the same time, the glory of the divine jade lotus on his soul level began to bloom. Without any hesitation, the energy in his body was instantly transformed into Xianyin Jingren Xian Dao. Then his hands operated according to Yan Menjiao's strange power. A black flame burned, and the flame instantly swept over the whole body, even affecting the spiritual world. Ah! A terrifying and shrill scream sounded on the spiritual level, and this ball of black flame burned the illusory soul. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 463. Lin Yi's left hand and right hand formed the Aquarius seal respectively, and his spirit and spirit of swallowing thieves instantly strengthened. The entire spiritual world seemed to be stabilized. Under the protection of the divine jade lotus and black fire, the last soul attack from Su Wuzi was blocked. At this time, the soul of Su Wuzi is rapidly disappearing. The soul without a physical body is like water without roots, and will naturally dissipate soon. Wuzi couldn't even escape. The colorful peacock had turned into a colorful figure, rolling crazily in the black fire. A miserable scream sounded, "You will die, you will definitely die. The 5 Elements sect will never let you go. Ah! I'm not willing to accept it." Bang! With a faint sound, Lin Yi knew that this void sun was completely dead. Only then did he relax. I checked my energy and found that it was less than 10% of the total victory. The spiritual wave had also reached its lowest point, with only 2 levels left. It's really dangerous. I almost couldn't suppress this person. The 3rd level of the Ghost Immortal path is really terrifying. I used almost all my strength, even the summons and labyrinth puppets were wiped out, to kill him. The Ghost Immortal Dao is incredibly powerful when it reaches the 3rd level. Only at this time did Lin Yi have a truly profound understanding of the power of the practicing sect. Only when you step into the 3rd level of the Ghost Immortal Way can you truly distance yourself from the people below. This is a pure quality gap. I will be more careful in the future when facing the existence of the 3rd level of Ghost Immortal Dao. You can't beat me alone. Escape is the only option. Fortunately, I have my true destiny. If I really want to run, no one can stop me. As long as we return to the Wanchaiwu house, we will still be able to fight. At this time, Lin Yi also had a detailed assessment of his combat power. As long as he didn't reach the 3rd level of Ghost Immortal Dao, the realm of condensing souls, he could easily knock the opponent down. But as long as he reaches this realm, he is definitely no match. After having a detailed positioning for himself, Lin Yi knew what he would face next. Sect. It's truly terrifying. With the death of Wu Zizi, pure energy was quickly absorbed by the House of Everything. The walls of the maze are rapidly repairing at a speed visible to the naked eye. The dead maze puppets and summons also recovered at an accelerated pace under the power of the House of Everything. Countless pieces of meat on the ground extended out countless green threads, which were connected to each other to form their original appearance. The strange summons that were sacrificed were also reunited in the summoning album. With the injection of power from Wanchai, they also came out again. The house of everything became lively again, and brandy and vodka also stood up from the ground. The collision and death process made them uncomfortable and frightened. They basically played no role in this battle. After all, the enemy was too powerful. If the two of them really took action, they would probably die immediately without any miracle. A 5 elements divine needle is something they cannot resist. It would be as easy for Xuanhuan to kill the two of them as it would be to kill a chicken. At this time, the strange child had already picked up the 5 elements divine needle and the 5 elements divine fan from the ground. As for the Taoist robe worn by Xuanhuan, it was ruined and was destroyed when it came into contact with the crutch of destruction. Lin Yi's eyes showed a trace of joy. This time, his biggest trophy was these two magic weapons. There is also the 5 elements sect cultivation method learned from the Xuanhuan. In this battle, all the techniques used by Xuanhuan were thoroughly inspected by Lin Yi, and nothing was missed. After taking over the two magic weapons, Lin Yi looked at everyone and said, "The next step will be left to you. It will soon be 12 o'clock in the night. If there is a strange existence coming by then, it will be up to you to deal with it." Brandy patted her chest and said, "Store manager, rest assured, I'll take care of everything. I didn't contribute in this battle, and I feel very ashamed," Brandy said with a hint of disappointment on his face. This was the disappointment that he could not participate in the battle, but at this time he showed a hint of determination. "But if there is a strange existence coming tonight, I will definitely defeat it with all my strength. Let the store manager rest at ease." Lin Yi glanced at him unexpectedly when he heard this. He didn't expect that Brandy seemed to be stimulated this time. Lin Yi smiled lightly and said, "Be careful, everything can be done slowly. Martial arts is not achieved overnight, it requires years of accumulation." At this time, Lin Yi's shirt had completely turned into a waterfall. In the previous battle, he let the 5 elements divine needle bring out wounds on his body, which was an extreme operation. He was able to do this entirely by relying on his talent for copying Brandy and his ability to sense crises. The moment the 5 elements extinction divine needle flew out of his skin, he would intermittently stop the boundless coverage of that area. This creates the illusion of being pierced by the 5 elements extinction divine needle, thus confusing the nihilistic sun. You must know that the speed of the 5 elements extinction divine needle's jets exceeds the speed of sound. It is almost impossible to do these things purely by naked eyes. It was Lin Yi's copied talent that allowed him to perform such extreme operations at the speed of sound. All of this is to make Xuanhuan relax his vigilance in the end. And the opponent was also confused by Lin Yi, and stepped into the trap when they finally clashed head-on. Even Xuanhuan didn't know why every time the destruction cane would actually collide with his sword light. All this was to make him instinctively believe that every attack of the destruction cane would inevitably reveal its entity. But all this was just a trap designed by Lin Yi to make him step into it. Fighting is never just about strength. As long as the tactics are used properly, it is not impossible to challenge the opponent at a higher level. And Lin Yi has brought this tactic to the extreme. Although this is backed by his true destiny solution, this mysterious ability. But he believes that even if other people have some mysterious and strange objects in their hands, or wonderful Taoism, they can do the same thing as him. At least at the level of Ghost Immortal Dao, even if the actual combat power exceeds that of others, it cannot guarantee a sure win. Lin Yi did not stay in the basement for long and went straight back to his bedroom. At this time, his martial arts had been transformed into King Mugongren Xiandao, and the endless essence moisturized his wounds, allowing them to stop bleeding quickly. At the same time, the energy of the sky crystal stored in the cells also began to work. Countless wounds had cells growing rapidly, and damaged cells were decomposed. In just a few minutes, all the wounds had scabs, and intact flesh and skin had grown. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 464. After a few minutes, the blood eggplants began to fall off automatically, and finally all of Lin Yi's wounds disappeared. Lin Yi's spiritual world was damaged in the initial collision. When he returned to the bedroom, these sequelae began to gradually erupt. He sat upright on the bed, closed his eyes and rested, circulating his energy. There were faint tingling in his head, which was a kind of spiritual pain that made him very uncomfortable. He could even see his own soul of swallowing thieves trembling unsteadily. This was caused by the impact of the soul of Su Wuzi before his death. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Diamond Suit. Diamond Suit. The energy of the sky crystal slowly spread to his whole body, and even the energy of the sky crystal flowed into the spiritual level. It can be seen with the naked eye that along with these energies, the spiritual world was injected. It quickly stabilized here, especially the stability of the soul of swallowing thieves, which became as real as before. In just a few minutes, Lin Yi recovered to a state of complete victory without any damage. Lin Yi sat cross-legged in front of his bed, his essence flowing slowly, replenishing his consumption. Time passed in a flash, and I don't know how long it had passed. Lin Yi felt that he had completely recovered to his peak. At this time, he changed the cultivation method in his body and turned it into the Great Vajra Wisdom method. Then he took out his treasured 7 soul pills and swallowed one. He fully operated the Great Vajra Wisdom method, and the pill energy and spirit merged, and soon the second soul appeared. The second soul was called Corpse Dog. With the formation of this soul, a wonderful induction appeared in Lin Yi's mind. It seemed that something different had happened in the outside world. In his perception, the space seemed to have countless levels. He slowly opened his eyes and looked at his familiar bedroom. The space became hazy and vague, as if there were many layers overlapping. At the same time, he could see some traces that were vague, floating around, and there were a lot of energy brilliance. Obviously, this was the ability brought by the corpse dog. After the soul was successfully condensed, it could make people feel various phenomena that they had never felt before. These countless phenomena finally gathered together, which was what Lin Yi saw in front of him. This ability does not have any substantial effect. Its main function is to make humans realize that there are unknown levels beyond vision. This unknown level is only part of the truth of the world. However, Lin Yi knew these scenes a long time ago under the observation of the True Destiny Daoji. The most fundamental effect of the True Destiny Daoji is to observe and understand everything. And these things also include the world of time and space, etc., and even the unknown time and space level can be observed by the True Destiny Daoji. After condensing the corpse dog soul, Lin Yi can feel that his spirit is more vigorous and his perception of himself is more acute. He can even feel his weak emotional fluctuations, which produce waves of impact and are spreading in his soul. This is the fluctuation of human instinct and the source of the inner demon. With the condensation of the second soul, the power of this inner demon is getting stronger and stronger. He can feel the primitive instinct echoing in his heart anytime and anywhere. He must constantly suppress and be vigilant of this impulse through self-restraint and reflection. And in this process, it is actually a kind of training of one's own willpower. Faintly, Lin Yi grasped the benefits of this kind of inner demon. At the same time, he also understood that those people in the sect might be stronger than he imagined. From the perspective of willpower alone, they could cultivate to the third level of the ghost immortal Dao, and they didn't know how many times they had been tempered by the inner demon. For such people, he responded with 12 points of awe. No one understood better than him that a firm consciousness was the most important condition for achieving all success. In China, there were countless discussions and countless successful examples. The person who could accomplish great things was not determined and indestructible, which was the most important prerequisite for success. But many people could not see this point, and they often gave up halfway on the road to creating their dreams. People who choose to quit when they encounter difficulties will never be able to truly succeed. After feeling the benefits and disadvantages of the inner demon, today's practice was basically over. At this time, he noticed the lotus handprint in his mind, and 10 of them were already lit on it. It seems that tonight's harvest is not bad. Oh oh oh. A loud rooster crow sounded outside. Is it dawn yet? Yesterday's incident has been temporarily resolved, but there will definitely be follow-up from the 5 elements section. Xuanhuan actually sold the fake news of the law of heaven and earth in exchange for resources. According to those people, this is to prepare for the impact of the earth immortal path. Once he completes the breakthrough, it will be a disaster for me. I must break through to the peak of the ghost immortal path as soon as possible. Xuanhuan, the 5 elements sect, and the deputy general manager are all eyeing me covetously. There was a hint of contemplation in his eyes, and a faint haze rose in his heart. He knew that once a true earth immortal path level existence took action, he would never have any chance of winning. That is a qualitative difference, a comprehensive crushing of the existence of the ghost immortal path, and below, all data is unknown. Forget it, let's do one thing at a time. Fortunately, I have the sky crystal. The energy of this thing can quickly stabilize the spiritual realm. Getting down from his bed, Lin Yi took out the sky crystal from his desk. A strange force rushed into his body. The sky crystal power consumed by his body was quickly replenished. At the same time, the corpse dog soul that had just condensed also quickly stabilized, and the adaptation period was ending at an alarming speed. Try to condense 1 soul every day in the next few days. Try to condense 3 souls and 7 spirits in the shortest time and impact the 3rd level of the ghost immortal path. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to adapt to the power of the ghost immortal path level, but now time is running out. He doesn't have so much time to wait. He urgently needs to increase his strength. In the west of Honglian City, huge changes are taking place inside the mysterious biological laboratory. The strong men summoned by the Flower Department, Snow Department, and Black Department have been in for a few days. But no news has been heard, and the biological laboratory has no way out. There is a mysterious force field there that can isolate any external communication. This force field is not something that the biological laboratory itself has, but it appeared after the arrival of the man in black. The biological laboratory at this time was like a den of dragons and tigers. At least 15 people in black entered in succession. Among them, there were 3 powerful ghost immortals, and the lowest level was the 2nd level of human immortals. But no one came out. Obviously, the situation inside was quite dangerous. It was very likely that they were all trapped or wiped out. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 465. The outermost space-time barrier of the biological laboratory seals off this area, and no existence can escape from the biological laboratory. At this time, there are a total of 5 beings at the level of ghosts and immortals presiding over the formation that seals this area of time and space. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. They are all real masters hidden by the men in black. Their only task is to practice. The regular troops of the men in black are actually divided into 2 parts. The first part is the Foreign Affairs Department, that is, people like Huang Yiming and Li Changfang who usually travel around the country or handle cases in Honglian City. The second part is the Internal Affairs Department, which contains carefully selected truly talented people with deep backgrounds in various forces in the empire. The power of the Foreign Affairs Department is limited, and it can basically only handle cases of past immortals and below. The Ministry of Internal Affairs is completely different. In the past, they basically did not show up. They will only take action on matters that are extremely difficult, involve major dangers, and are even completely incapable of being handled by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. However, both the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Internal Affairs are under the control of the minister. Every minister of the men in black is a very powerful being, but they rarely take action. There is a legend that every minister of the Men in Black is a person who has shown extraordinary talents since the first world change and has been specially cultivated. They are not only proficient in cultivation methods, but also master powerful strange items. Pure combat power is said to be infinitely close to the existence of Earth Immortal Deo, although their realm is basically only at the level of Ghost Immortal Deo. But they all have their own fighting systems, and can even touch the boundaries of Earth Immortal Deo's combat power. That's why they can convince everyone and assume the position of minister. After all, in a department like this, combat effectiveness is the most important. The situation inside the biological laboratory in the west of Chengdu has caused bad doubts in the minds of those who were guarding the outside. There are at least 8 masters from the 3rd level of Ghost Immortal Deo guarding here now. Among them are 3 ministers. Yinswili, the director of the Blood Department, Mrs. Rose, the director of the Flower Department, and Xuanhuan, the director of the Black Department. 3 ministers and 5 masters from the Internal Affairs Department are guarding here, as well as dozens of fully armed masters at the level of Immortal Deo, as well as hundreds of combat robots blocking this area. Mrs. Rose, the head of the Flower Department, said with a solemn face, "What should we do now? We have entered so many people but there is no news. I'm afraid it's more serious than bad." The head of the Blood Department, Yinswili, also looked solemn. The situation inside is very strange, and no information can be conveyed. If my guess is correct, I'm afraid an unknown and strange existence has appeared. Maybe all the staff in the original laboratory and the experimental subjects have changed. The Red Lotus Empire has been studying strange existences for a long time. They know that strange power can cause changes in anything, and this change is irreversible. And the existence after the mutation usually becomes very dangerous. Such as those mutated wild animals and resentful spirits, etc. What should I do in this situation now? Our people went in, and many experts didn't have any feedback. No one has escaped. We have to find another way. Xuanhuan, the head of the Kurobe department, said coldly. Xuanhuan is a man who looks to be about 40 years old. He is very strong, 2 meters tall, and has bulging muscles all over his body. He looks very scary. He was wearing a black battle suit, the Empire's most advanced defense equipment, and even had mysterious rune patterns on it. It seems like this is a special defensive weapon. Mrs. Rose suddenly said, "I know a person, maybe he can let us know what is going on inside." Yinswili looked at Madame Rose. "Who is it?" "The person who solved the serial death cases of the sex envoys. That person is very mysterious and possesses a wonderful ability that can ignore any restraints and attacks. If he uses this ability, he should be able to enter the laboratory calmly and explore what is going on inside." Yingxiuli was stunned when he heard this. "I know this person, Huang Yiming reported it to me. I think you all know about the deputy head general's matter." The head of the Flower Department nodded. "I know about this. The deputy head has overreached. If we still want to ask others for help from our current position, it would be a bit embarrassing, unless we can come up with an offer that the other party cannot refuse." Mrs. Rose smiled slightly when she thought of this. Her delicate facial features were as alluring as an enchanting succubus. "It's very simple. The opponent's cultivation level is only the 1st level of Ghost Immortal Deo. If we come up with Earth Immortal Deo level skills, I think he will be very interested." When Yingxiuli heard this, he immediately knew what Mrs. Rose meant. The skills at the Earth Immortal Deo level have never been revealed. Both the Empire and the sect have a tacit understanding that they have no intention of spreading this technique. He firmly sealed the skills of the Earthly Immortal Deo in his own hands. Because the Earth Immortal Way is a technique that completely changes the human body. Once completed, it will be another living body, not a simple human body. Both vitality and combat ability will increase beyond imagination. The Earth Immortal Deo and the Ghost Immortal Deo are 2 completely different existences, and they are not comparable at all. That is why the Earth Immortal Dao level skills can be blocked so accurately. Xuanhuan, who was standing by, frowned and heard the conversation between the two. I don't think it's necessary to ask this person to use the Earth Immortal Dao level skills. Each copy of this kind of skills may create an uncontrollable monster. Instead of giving such benefits to outsiders, it is better to give me an Earth Spirit pill and let me try it myself. Even if there are unknown dangers inside, it is no problem for me to get out with my means. Madame Rose and Yinswili glanced at Xuanhuan and looked at each other. Madame Rose smiled and said, "If you are willing to help, it is not impossible. But we have to apply to the higher UPS to see if they agree." Xuanhuan shrugged and said, "It's up to you." Soon Madame Rose dialed the phone in her hand, as if she was contacting someone. Soon a call was connected. "Rose. What's going on?" A deep voice came from her mouth. "Headmaster, the situation is like this. After a few days of testing in this biological laboratory, it was found to be very dangerous. Everyone sent in has disappeared, and there is no response. I'm afraid we need someone at the peak level of the Ghost Immortal Dao to take action before we can enter and explore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 466. But because the danger is unknown, everyone is a little hesitant. Xuanhuan said that if he was given an Earth Spirit pill, he would be willing to give it a try. Everyone who can cultivate to the peak of the Ghost Immortal Dao is a talented person. Especially these ministers, each of whom has a combat power that exceeds the ordinary third-level masters of the Ghost Immortal Dao and is qualified to impact the Earth Immortal Dao. They are very valuable resources in themselves. But one of the reasons why they haven't impacted yet is the practice method, and the second reason is resources. As the top leaders of the black-clothed people, they naturally have no shortage of practice methods, but they have always lacked resources. Each Earth Spirit pill can increase the chance of breaking through the Earth Immortal Dao, but this kind of pill is very rare. To get it, you must make enough achievements or special bounty missions. But this kind of mission has not appeared so far, and their achievements are still far from enough. Among those who took the Earth Spirit pill and successfully broke through the Earth Immortal Dao, the most famous one is the Deputy General Manager of the Black-Clothed People. The General Manager opposite heard what Ms. Rose said, thought for a moment and gave a reply. Tell Xuanhuan that if he can solve all the crises in this biological laboratory by himself, then he is qualified to use the Earth Spirit pill. Ms. Rose nodded and said, "Yes, Mr. Headquarters." After hanging up the phone, Ms. Rose looked at Xuanhuan. "You heard it, if you have the ability to solve all the problems in it by yourself, you can get the Earth Spirit pill. If you can't do it, then there is no way." Xuanhuan's mouth twitched when he heard it. How is this possible? The danger inside is obviously beyond imagination. Even I can't do it to this extent. Now there is only one way. Let's find someone to figure out what happened inside. Xuanhuan's face showed a trace of solemnity. Hearing Xuanhuan's words, Ms. Rose pursed her lips and muttered a few times, "I knew this guy would back down. Looks quite strong, but he is actually a coward." Although her voice was very low, everyone here could hear it. Xuanhuan's eyebrows were bulging with veins, and he glanced at Ms. Rose and said, "Woman, you're so annoying. Haha, I didn't make you like me." Ms. Rose rolled her eyes at him, and the eyes of several people fell on the entrance of the laboratory again. The entrance is an underground parking lot, and there is an elevator leading to the depths below. Everyone who wants to enter the base can only enter through the elevator. After entering, none of the team members they sent out returned. Ms. Rose's voice continued to sound, I think it's more cost-effective to ask that person to help us. Even if he gets the skills, without resources, it will be extremely difficult for him to break through the ghost immortal path by his own practice. Even after the third world change, the world's spirituality exploded. Breaking through the earth immortal path is not so easy. If we just let him investigate, this price is enough. Yinswili thought for a while and said, the chips are enough, but how to find him? Mrs. Rose had a mischievous smile on her lips. Can't we just ask the deputy director directly? With his methods, I'm afraid he has already noticed who this person is. Yinswili frowned when he heard this. Can we not look for him? You know I'm not very good at contacting the deputy director. This person hides too deeply. Every time I deal with him, I feel a lot of pressure. At this point, the two of them have already set their eyes on Xuanhuan. Seeing the two people staring at him, Xuanhuan thought for a while and said, after that person goes in to investigate, if there is no huge threat inside, I will solve it myself. I want that earth spirit pill. Yinswili and Madame Rose both raised their eyebrows when they heard this, knowing that Xuanhuan would not show his eagle until he saw the rabbit. He was too calculating. The two looked at each other. They instinctively felt that the things in this biological laboratory were not that simple. Xuanhuan might have thought too well. After thinking about it, the two of them seemed to have reached an agreement. Okay, if there is really no huge threat, I will leave it to you to solve it. The earth spirit pill will also belong to you. After the three reached an agreement, Xuanhuan frowned and dialed the phone in his hand very reluctantly. Beep. After 2 light rings, a cold voice sounded, Xuanhuan? What's the matter? Deputy General Manager, the matter is like this. After about a few minutes of negotiations, the Deputy General Manager on the opposite side pondered for a while. At this moment, he was sitting in his office, looking down at the Red Lotus city below. Last night, Su Wuzi from the Five Elements sect went to eliminate Lin Yi, but the result disappointed him. Until now, Su Wuzi has not come out of the Wanqi house, and it is obvious that he is in danger. A master of the sect? What a waste, a peak-level existence of the ghost immortal Dao, only half a step away from impacting the earth immortal Dao, can't even kill a person at the first level of the ghost immortal Dao. He took a deep breath, and a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. Although he wanted to take action, he knew it was impossible. In the imperial capital, someone is watching everything. Any power that exceeds the level of the earth immortal Dao will be detected at the first time. Then someone will notice him, and if he violates the basic rules of the empire, he will. Then even if he is in his position, he will be severely punished. He had managed to climb to his current position with great difficulty, and he did not want to lose the power in his hands. Therefore, he can only resort to outside measures, not taking action himself, but looking for people who can take action for him. Originally, the sword he chose was from the Five Elements sect, but the sword broke unexpectedly, which was very difficult for him to accept. When he heard Xuanhuan's words, he suddenly had an idea in his mind. The biological laboratory is such a dangerous place. If he went there, he might die there. You don't have to use the sect to kill someone with a borrowed knife. As long as you can kill him, that's enough. Thinking of this, he said directly to Xuanhuan, that person is Lin Yi from Wanchaiwu. If you ask Yinswili, he should know this person very well. After saying that, he hung up the phone with a sinister smile on his face. Ha ha ha, if once doesn't work, then do it twice or 3 times. One day you will die in danger. Sooner or later the Tianjing will be mine at that time. I will keep an eye on you, don't think you can escape. At the biological laboratory site, Xuanhuan looked at Yinswili after hearing the Deputy General Manager's answer. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 467. The name of the person the deputy head of the headquarters mentioned is Lin Yi. Do you know this person? When Yin Swili heard Lin Yi's name, he immediately understood, I know this person is one of the external specialists of our blood department. This man is indeed very mysterious. We have cooperated with him several times, and he has always accomplished the task perfectly. Since I am the commissioner of our blood department, I will go there myself. And the technique he practices happens to be the powerful Vajra wisdom method, which is derived from the ancient Vajra Zen way series. We also happen to have the techniques of the earthly immortal way, the highest level of the Vajra Zen way, the mighty Vajra. The highest level of this skill is the pinnacle of the earthly immortal way. Once mastered, you will be a real powerful Vajra Bodhisattva. A mythical existence. The head of the flower department showed a brilliant light in his eyes, looked at Yin Swili and said, so it's this person. He is really good. I met him twice and I was impressed every time. But this person has offended the deputy chief, and he will suffer in the future. They had secretly heard about Tianjing, and they were naturally very dissatisfied with the deputy chief's tyranny. But this thing didn't succeed after all, so they had nothing to say. But they all knew that the deputy head would never give up, and there might be some means waiting for Lin Yi. Yin Swili turned around and left, and about half an hour later, he stepped into the door of Wanqi house. Ring ring ring. The welcome bell rang, and the person coming in attracted Lin Yi's attention. Hey, it turns out to be the minister. At this time, Lin Yi was sitting in his seat enjoying his lunch. After Yin Swili entered the Wanqi room, his eyes fell directly on him and he walked over with a faint smile. Hello, Lin Yi. What's the matter with the minister coming to my place? Yin Swili said straight to the point with a smile, yes, there is indeed something I need your help with. Really? I don't know what it is that requires the minister to come in person. While Lin Yi was enjoying his delicious meal, he looked at Yin Swili with doubtful eyes. He has only met this person once. The Minister of Blood has always been a dragon who has always seen the beginning but not the end. Yin Swili said with a smile, I came here today for something. After a pause, he said, there is a biological laboratory in the west of the city. Inside is where the Empire studies various weird existences and biological weapons. Hearing this, Lin Yi probably guessed what was going on. Did something happen? Yin Swili nodded, you guessed it right. An unknown and strange existence appeared there, and the entire laboratory fell. We sent several teams in, but there was no news from them all, no reply. So now we urgently need someone to help us find out what happened. But the news cannot be revealed on a large scale, so we carefully selected and fell on you. I wonder if you are interested in taking on this task. Hearing this question, Lin Yi held his steel fork in his right hand and put the last piece of steak into his mouth. He chewed carefully for a few minutes and then looked at Yin Swili. This mission is too dangerous. You men in black have sent several teams in but there has been no news. I don't think I'm any better than them. So I think I'd better forget about this task. It's not very suitable for me. When Yin Swili heard Lin Yi's rejection, he smiled slightly and said, don't be too busy rejecting it yet. The reward this time is a local immortal level scripture. Powerful King Kong is the last book of Vajra Zen that you practice. It allows you to cultivate to the highest realm of the earthly immortal way and become a powerful Vajra Bodhisattva. Except for the sect, only we and some big forces have the skills of the earthly immortal Deo. If you miss this opportunity, it may be impossible to find this copy of Mighty King Kong again. Because this scripture is only available in the Empire and the sects of the West. When the Way of Diamond Zen came out, the Empire grabbed the last book in the series. Then I collected techniques from other realms through various methods. Out of the West, only the Empire has the most complete version. Since you are practicing this series of techniques, if you want to take a step forward and reach the top of the earthly immortal way, you must have this technique. There was a smile on Yin Swili's lips that was determined to win. After knowing the skills that Lin Yi practiced, he knew that the other party had no room to refuse. But what Lin Yi said next made him stunned. Although the technique is good, you must have a life to enjoy it. I'm just a small shop manager, running a small business to make a living. I don't intend to get involved in this kind of thing. Minister, please go back. Yinswili was very surprised when he heard this. He couldn't help but glance at Lin Yi, and for a moment he didn't seem to know what to say. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Doesn't he want to be promoted to the Earth Immortal Deo? Just sink like this? Doesn't he know that the deputy chief has been targeting him for a long time? No, he must have other sources of support, so the earthly Immortal Deo skills cannot impress him. No one can circumvent the practice of cultivation techniques, otherwise the realm will inevitably stagnate forever and stay where it is. There is only one possibility now. Did he contact the sect involved in this technique, Zishan? Did he exchange this last level of technique? In an instant, Yinswili seemed to think of a lot. Then he looked at Lin Yi with a strange look in his eyes. The man in black was from the Empire's department. If the external specialist contacted the sect, he would be a traitor, but all this was just his guess. But considering the conflict between the deputy director and Lin Yi, he had reason to believe that the other party might really contact the sect. Any rules in this world are nothing more than alliances, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Yinswili frowned slightly, looked at Lin Yi and said, in this case, I'll go back for the time being, you might as well think about it again. After all, a local immortal technique is not something you can get normally. Lin Yi smiled slightly, it's just a technique, it's nothing. Yinswili left the Wanchaiwu, and many thoughts flashed through his mind. He also doubted the reason for Lin Yi's refusal. But he also understood Lin Yi. If Lin Yi really made this choice, it would be the vice chief's fault. What should we do next? Who else has the ability to explore this biological laboratory? He shook his head slightly, and a sense of uneasiness rose in his heart. When he returned to the entrance of the biological laboratory, Mrs. Rose looked at him and felt a little strange. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 468. Why are you alone? Didn't Lin Yi come with you? Yinswili shook his head and said, he has no interest in the technique, so he refused directly. I suspect he has something to do with the sect behind Vajrazen, Zishan. Mrs. Rose showed a hint of surprise in her eyes, I don't think so. Yinswili frowned and looked at her and said, why do you think not? Woman's intuition, he doesn't seem like someone who will surrender to others. Maybe he has other ways to enter the earthly immortal path, such as changing the foundation of the technique. The restrictions of the technique are not unbreakable, but since he doesn't want to, there is no need for us to force it. It seems that we have to go there in person. After Mrs. Rose finished speaking, Xuanhuan and Yinswili's faces condensed. They knew that they would probably have to take risks themselves next. Xuanhuan whispered, let's take a few combat robots with us. If there is real danger, they are the best cannon fodder and can buy us time to escape. And this elevator, we'd better not take it. Go directly through the elevator tunnel. If there is any problem, we can evacuate at the first time. And we can use combat robots to be the vanguard and the rear guard. Yinswili and Mrs. Rose nodded, okay, since we are doing it ourselves, we should be careful. Yinswili said solemnly, let's start now. It has been delayed for a few days. Time waits for no one. If it continues like this, there may be more significant changes. We will be in big trouble by then. As he said, Yinswili showed a trace of solemnity in his eyes and picked up the walkie-talkie in his hand. Mobilize 20 combat robots here, we are going to enter the laboratory. Soon, 20 combat robots with 4 legs quickly came around the 3 people. These robots are about 2 meters tall, with 4 legs and 4 arms, and have extremely high stability. Several people walked into the entrance. This is an underground garage. Deep in the garage is an elevator leading to the underground. The combat robots walked in front, opened the elevator door, and went in one by one. Madame Rose, Yinswili, and Xuanhuan each sat on the back of a combat robot. The robots used their hands and feet to quickly go underground along the elevator tunnel. The combat robots descended very quickly because there were other combat robots in front of them. Madame Rose and the other two were basically at the end. There were no problems along the way, and they soon arrived more than 200 meters underground. At this time, the elevator had been underground and had not moved. When they came to the top of the elevator, the combat robots had moved the elevator down a few meters and made way for an exit. The combat robots have basic intelligence and judgment capabilities, and they can fight without control. At this time, the door had been opened, and a long passage appeared in front of the three people. This passage was wet, as if it had been filled with liquid before. The three people frowned when they saw this, and only heard Madame Rose's solemn voice. This is the highest level of defense. The powerful anesthetic liquid will fill the entire biological laboratory. At the same time, these liquids will directly freeze and seal everything. Now these liquids have disappeared. Is there a problem with the closed system? So they all melted and discharged. Yinswili shook his head and said, only if we investigate it ourselves can we know what the situation is. The people in front probably did the same. The combat robot quickly moved forward. The gate of the passage had been opened long ago, and the road was unobstructed. They quickly went deep into the base, hundreds of meters in area, and saw rooms with different purposes. At this time, all these rooms were open. At a glance, there was no danger inside. Xuanhuan noticed that the door locks of these rooms had traces of being opened violently. These doors should have been opened violently by the first people who came down. Ms. Rose and Yinswili saw it in their eyes, but they didn't say anything. They continued to move forward and soon came to the corner in front of the passage. Suddenly, the combat robot that rushed in suddenly flew back. Boom! The huge force directly hit the wall at the corner. The three people at the end of these combat robots stopped immediately. Xuanhuan said solemnly, be careful. If there is an unknown threat, we will retreat immediately. The next moment, a combat robot covered with a strange black substance suddenly rushed out. This combat robot is covered with a black muscle-like substance. From a distance, it looks like flesh and blood growing on steel, and it is rotten flesh and blood. Seeing this scene, several people were shocked. After seeing the many combat robots and three people in front of them, this strange robot immediately rushed towards them. But there were 10 combat robots blocking the three people. Facing the strange robot rushing, they immediately launched an attack. Bang 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 bang. The fierce sound of bullet shooting rang out in an instant, and there were flying shrapnel everywhere, shooting at the oncoming strange robot. This strange robot trembled all over under the attack of countless bullets. Countless sparks burst out, and the body began to break at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye. 2 combat robots rushed up from the left and right with laser swords in their hands. Crack! 2 metal breaking sounds were heard, and the strange robot was directly cut into 3 pieces and fell to the ground. But what surprised Ms. Rose and the others was that the strange robot, which was supposed to be unable to move on the ground, actually grew countless black tissues. These black tissues instantly wrapped around the 3 broken bodies of the strange robot. It seemed that it wanted to reassemble the 3 bodies together. The combat robots next to it were not vegetarians. Another series of lightsabers swept across, cutting the strange robot into dozens of pieces. It was not until this time that it was completely unable to move, and the black biological tissue on its body gradually turned into ashes under the cutting of the sword light. A series of fierce footsteps came from the corner of the passage. Mrs. Rose and the other two looked solemn and very ugly. Because there were more than a dozen strange robots in front of them. There were even a few auras, very terrifying and strange beings. They were humanoid creatures, with strange and dense holes all over their bodies. Wisps of black smoke were spreading out from the holes on their bodies. Each of these beings exuded a terrifying aura of the peak level of the ghost immortal Deo. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 469. When Yinswili and the other two saw this scene, their scalps went numb instantly. The situation was beyond their imagination. There must be unimaginable dangers in the base. Xuanhuan's voice rang in the ears of the three people. Retreat, we retreat immediately. Use that thing to seal this place, and never let them run away. Yinswili's face was solemn when he heard this. He knew that the situation was very critical. Once these things rushed to the ground along the passage, an irreversible chaos was about to begin. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. And these things are obviously just the vanguard. There must be more powerful existences deep in the space. Things have gone beyond their control, and more powerful people must be needed to solve them. Thinking of this, he took out a strange black network-like thing in his hand. After seeing Yinswili take out the thing, Madame Rose and Xuanhuan immediately began to retreat. Yinswili threw the net-like thing to the ground. In an instant, the black strange network began to expand, closing the passage in front of him. And the black network was still expanding rapidly, spreading to every corner of this passage. Even the rooms with open doors were filled with these black networks. Madame Rose and the other two turned around and evacuated here at a very fast speed. The black network behind them expanded wildly, chasing them like a tide. In the area where the battle was going on, the black network was like a living thing. All the combat robots and strange beings were networked in it. It was visible to the naked eye that all energy was being absorbed by this black network. Even the strange power in the bodies of these strange beings was no exception. These strange beings with the peak level of ghost immortals reacted immediately after being bound by the black network. Countless black dagger-like sharp thorns grew around them, and their bodies suddenly spun rapidly, trying to tear apart all the networks entangled with them. But unfortunately, these black networks are very tough, and the black blades on them cannot cut them into pieces. In the end, they can only be helplessly trapped in the network, and their strength is slowly drained. At this time, in the depths of this laboratory, a pair of eyes slowly opened. Those were a pair of cold and ruthless eyes, without any emotions, like dead silence and darkness. At this time, a large number of places in the biological laboratory were still filled with ice. But these ices were already covered with strange black lines. Some ices have even been completely dyed black. The human bodies frozen by these ices have also changed, and all have become strange beings with pores all over their bodies. An army of strange beings that seem to be of the same kind is rapidly taking shape. In the most central area, the ice here has long turned into a black liquid. The empty experimental hall is filled with this black liquid. In the center of the liquid, there is a huge black egg, and there is a slight beating sound inside, as if the heart is beating. A pair of eyes floated in this black giant egg, as if the heartbeat came from it. At this time, the darkness in the biological laboratory was rapidly expanding, turning countless ice into black liquid. One after another, strange beings covered with holes walked out of their positions and walked towards the exit of the biological laboratory. Among them, several special strange beings can be seen. There are still some traces on them, which seem to be some kind of combat uniforms. Obviously, they are the advance team sent into the laboratory. But they have all fallen, and even assimilated. In the most secret corner of the entire laboratory, Dr. Lei Kongtong's face was miserable. The room where he was filled with a faint golden pattern. This is a room where forbidden methods have been arranged, specially to defend against the invasion of unknown forces. This is a secret that only he knows, and it is also his office. He has been here for a few days, watching the changes in the entire biological laboratory bit by bit. He knows that once the things in the biological laboratory appear in the outside world, the entire Honglian city will face a catastrophe. What he wanted to do most now was to pass on the current news and let the Empire send out the strongest existence to solve it. Otherwise, once he really ran away, everything would be too late. Once the imperial capital was destroyed, the Empire would be out of control, and the end of the world would be inevitable. But he was trapped here and had no way out. He could only survive for so long because of the forbidden method in the laboratory. Otherwise, he would have died 3 days ago. At this time, the forbidden method on the 4 walls of the room finally had problems. Waves of black power continued to erode, causing the energy of the forbidden method to drop rapidly. Come quickly, as long as you come, I can pass on the news. At this time, he was holding a red paper crane in his hand. This was a strange item that he could also activate. Kakaka. Countless cracks appeared on the walls around him, and the light of the forbidden method was also flashing. Lei Kongtong's eyes flashed with despair. He knew that he could not escape, and death would follow. He touched the paper crane in his hand reluctantly, and then cut his right hand with force. Blood instantly flowed out, covering the entire 1,000 paper cranes. The paper cranes sucked the blood like sponges, emitting a strange light red light. It was visible to the naked eye that many red words appeared on the paper cranes. If you open it, you will find that everything you have seen in the past 3 days is explained in it. The paper cranes that record all my information, I hope it can be conveyed. If someone comes in here and can see you, tell them my last record. I hope the Empire can take good care of my granddaughter. I only have this one relative. Just as he was muttering to himself, the wall shattered. Countless golden forbidden spells also disappeared, turning into golden light and dissipating. The black liquid surged in and submerged Dr. Lei Kongtong. He struggled frantically in the liquid. He could feel something drilling into his body, eroding his body, and rushing to his brain. It was a cold, terrifying and ruthless thing, and the fear in his heart continued to magnify. Then a lovely face flashed in his mind. Rui'er. Then Lei Kongtong's consciousness was submerged in darkness, and he knew nothing. At this time, the black liquid swept everything in the room. With the naked eye, it was visible that some strange black fleshy objects grew on countless monitors, the ground, the ceiling, and the walls. Not only here, but the entire biological laboratory began to show such changes. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 470. The black liquid is gradually disappearing, replaced by black fleshy structures growing on the walls, ceiling, floor, and various utensils. Tumors are growing from these wall structures. These tumors soon grow to completion, the flesh membrane ruptures, and strange things fall out along with the black liquid. It is a strange existence with 4 legs, a humanoid body, and 2 arms. Their arms have only 4 fingers, all of which are as sharp as knives. The whole body is covered with sharp thorns, and at the same time, it is covered with countless tiny holes, a pure killing machine. Many tentacles have grown on the ceiling, floor, and walls. These tentacles are covered with countless suction cups, and the suction cups are covered with countless barbs. Those barbs look like small mouths. The entire biological laboratory is changing and turning into a terrifying black nest. At this time, at the original position of Dr. Lei Kongtong, a blood-red paper crane quietly flapped its wings and began to fly. Strangely, it seemed to be non-existent. No matter the strange existences that had grown around or the black tentacles, they seemed unable to touch it. It was like a lonely ghost, flying around in this biological laboratory, dancing freely. Although its speed was very slow, and even had no logic or order, it seemed to be drifting with the flow. But it was so strange and conspicuous in the biological laboratory, but strangely, no strange existence noticed it. At this time, on the ground, Madame Rose, Yinswili, and Xuanhuan had already rushed out of the biological laboratory. The moment they rushed out of the laboratory elevator, countless black networks spread out inside, covering the area several meters from the elevator entrance. The three people were frightened. If they hadn't run fast just now, they would have taken out a mysterious strange object to block it at the same time. They might have died in it. Madame Rose's face was no longer charming, but became more and more solemn. Looking at Xuanhuan, he said, "Report it to the deputy director. Now he needs to deal with this matter." Hearing this, Xuanhuan couldn't help but sigh. "It seems that I have no chance of getting the Earth Spirit pill." Ms. Rose looked at him unhappily. "It's already now, and you are still thinking about the Earth Spirit pill. It's good enough to be alive." "Oh, forget it, I'll call the deputy director." Xuanhuan couldn't help but dial the phone with a sad face. "Dudu." "Xuanhuan, what's wrong again?" "Deputy General Manager, we have already gone in to investigate. But we were kicked out as soon as we entered the outer passage of the biological laboratory. There are many mutated strange creatures inside, and even the combat robots have mutated. What is certain is that the people we sent in should have died." Hearing Xuanhuan's words, the deputy general manager frowned. "Didn't you go find that Lin Yi and ask him to explore the situation?" Xuanhuan smiled bitterly. "Yinswili went to ask him, but the other party refused. Even the method of the earthly immortal Dao, mighty King Kong, was rejected. According to his speculation, I'm afraid this person has already contacted the West Heaven and doesn't care about the method. So we can't invite him." Hearing this, the deputy general manager showed a smile on his face. "That's perfect. In my name, you go and give him the next order. Given his strong ability in searching, the Empire is in danger, and the men in black are going to forcibly recruit him to serve the Empire. If he refuses, then all his contracts with us men in black will be terminated. At the same time, tell him that he will no longer be protected by the men in black." Yinswili frowned when he heard this, but he has already done the forced recruitment mission once this year. It's a bit against the rules for us to continue recruiting. On the other end of the phone, the deputy director of the headquarters naturally heard Yinswili's words. "Rules are dead, but people are alive. Now is an extraordinary period, and all capable people must serve the Empire. And he joined us in black to be protected and avoid being targeted by strange organizations. In exchange, we also gave him generous conditions. Now that the Empire is in crisis, if he doesn't plan to take action, then there is no need for us to protect him, and he has nothing to say. Okay, Yinswili, you can do this. People who are unwilling to contribute to the Empire in times of crisis are not qualified to be protected by us." Hearing the words of the deputy director, everyone actually understood that the deputy director was going to take action against Lin Yi. One of the reasons why the deputy director has not taken action personally is that Lin Yi is an external specialist of the black-clad men. There are red lines in the internal struggles of the Empire, and breaking the rules and relying on force is absolutely not allowed. But if Lin Yi is no longer an external specialist of the black-clad men of the Empire, then the Empire will not stand up for him even if he does. This is a naked conspiracy, and Lin Yi just ran into the gun. In the event of a crisis, forced conscription is more important than anything else. If you don't obey, the Empire will no longer protect you. The Empire is abiding by the contract by not actively dealing with you and simply terminating it. And if you tell others, no one will use this issue to compose the Empire. For any force, the reason for spending money to train their own people. is that these people can stand up to protect their assets in times of danger. But if you are unwilling to stand up when your own forces and assets are in danger, I'm sorry, it's good enough that these forces don't take back their investment in you. As for future protection, don't even think about it. Although Lin Yi and the man in black have not reached this kind of relationship, it is just a pure transaction relationship of receiving and completing tasks. But the empire really protected him and kept him away from the covetousness of strange forces. This is a fact, and Lin Yi can't refute it. After receiving the order from the deputy minister, Yin Suili sighed in his heart. He knew that this time the man in black might fall out with Lin Yi. No matter what the result is, the two will inevitably be alienated. Even if the other party takes action this time, there will be no friendship between him and the man in black, but a purely exploitative relationship. However, Yin Suili's position is the empire, and all his interests must revolve around the empire. As the empire grows stronger, he naturally grows stronger. The empire's enemies are his enemies, and the empire's friends are his friends. Leave this to me.